All right, so for those of you that haven't met me before, my name is Mark Rubin-Toles. I'm the principal here at Orange Grove. I love Orange Grove. Both of my sons have gone through Orange Grove. My son, Simon, just promoted as an 8th grader and is now at the high school with my other son, who's a senior. So I'm a former parent of Orange Grove. I've been in the district. This will now be my 21st year in the district. And I'm really proud and happy to be the principal here. The reason that I called this meeting is because, as you know, families were presented with 2 different options by our district in response to what's happening with COVID right now. And there's been information up on the district website for some time, and we've been fielding questions in our office. People have given phone calls, they've emailed, and we've been addressing those as they came up. But I met yesterday with a group of really smart, really committed, really engaged parents, and I was really surprised at the level of confusion that even they still had about what the options were. And there were some pretty serious misunderstandings, which were simple but significant. So I thought it would be useful to have a question and answer session. So my plan right now is to talk to you a little bit about and outline some of the basics that it seems like some folks are not understanding yet. And I also am going to use the district website to point out where you can see this stuff also on your own down the line. And then once I've covered everything that I've prepared to say in response to some of the questions I've received, I can hear somebody, so everyone remember to mute yourself. Then I'm going to open it up to questions. The way that we'll do that is I'll just have you write your questions in the chat. This is what happened at the most recent board meeting, so if you were there, you'll be familiar with it. And I'll just try to go through. I blocked out until 7, even though I said this meeting was until 6, but I'm happy to stay until 7. And of course, this doesn't have to be the end of answering questions. If you really don't get your question answered, then you can email, and I will try to respond. Orange Grove is closed tomorrow, so don't call, but I will still be checking email. And Olga Barrios, you are presenting, so if you could stop presenting, that would be great. I will see if I can. I might be able to override your presentation. I want to share the district's website. Okay. All right. So just thumbs up if you can now see the district website being presented on my screen. Okay, great, beautiful. So we'll start. So first of all, one of the major misconceptions I want to make sure that I just get out of the way right away is that the choice that is being offered to you is to choose not for the full year, but really for the first quarter. So at Orange Grove, students can, and again, I don't know what this is going to look like for us on a systems level. It is certainly going to be challenging, but families can opt in or out of remote learning at the quarter. So I know there were some families that were really hesitant because they were concerned that they would choose, if they chose remote learning, that their child would be relegated to distance learning for the entire school year, and that is not true. So currently, it's for the first quarter. Our default is going to be that everyone is going to stay where they are, but if we hear from families that they want their child to switch placement at the quarter, then we will we'll make that happen. So that's one of the first misconceptions I wanted to clear up. Let's see, I just want to scroll down. Here we go. If you haven't been to our website to see this information, this is where it is. There's a big link here. Learn more here. I'm just going to go there so you can see where I'm talking about. And I want to talk about the difference, first of all, between in-person learning and remote learning, because another misconception that I've become aware of is that there's a lot of confusion about what remote learning looks like. And some parents believe there are 2 separate plans that they might be able to choose between. There really is just one remote learning plan. So as a family, for your child at Orange Grove, you will select that child comes in person on August 17th. The governor just held an address his most recent executive order and the information he revealed in his update does not change our district's plan to have in-person learning start on August 17th. So I'll let you know that. As far as I understand, so you'll choose remote or in-person. Families that choose remote for their child, all of that child's classes, they will attend remotely. Most of those classes will be what the district calls CFSD online. And that is a fully remote class where the teacher is remote and all of the students in the class are remote. There's a hub of Google Classroom for all the assignments and assessments. The teacher will meet in live sessions with those students. At Orange Grove, and that will be similar in structure to the remote learning that happened last year. But my expectation is that it will be much higher quality. The remote instruction that happened last year, my teachers did a great job, hitting the ground with very little time to plan and grappling with brand new technologies like we're grappling with tonight. But in my opinion, the education was not up to our standards at Orange Grove. And I think my guess is that many of you who experienced remote learning, and this is true across our nation, really felt that to be true. So it's true here too. So over this summer, our teachers are off in the summer. They are not working, but I've convened a couple of leadership teams. Several different teams have come together. And one of the things they've done is really sit down and outline what do we want remote learning to look like? What are the minimum expectations we want to have? How can we streamline things so that the interface is less confusing and less of a barrier to kids, so that they know exactly where to go, so they know what assignments are due and when they're going to meet with their teachers. We are going to increase in-person sessions with teachers. My expectation is that every class will have at least 2 of those per week. So that means that roughly a child that's in remote learning in the CFSD, if that particular class is CFSD online, they would meet about half of their classes every day for a session of 30 minutes or longer. And then there's the district is expecting a recorded session as well as part of that. So that's what a CFSD online class is like. At Orange Grove, before the year starts, and across the district before the year starts, the teachers will engage in 3.5 days of professional development about remote learning, because there is a possibility that the entire district would shift to remote depending on what happens with the pandemic. We can't predict. And at Orange Grove, we are going to do ongoing professional learning. The focus that I care most about is interaction. I didn't see enough interaction between teachers and students during the remote session, and I didn't see enough interaction from student to student. And at the middle school level especially, this is critical. For our kids' emotional health and for their ability to learn, they need to be able to interact with one another. So that's what we're going to be focusing on at our school in terms of remote learning. So that's the CFSD learning. Most classes will be CFSD remote. We don't know for sure which ones because we don't know numbers of how many parents are opting for remote, how many are opting for in-person. Once we get those numbers on Monday, my schedule and I are going to sit down with 7 cups of coffee and really try to construct 2 parallel and interlacing schools, a remote school and an in-person school. If we don't have a teacher that can teach a fully remote section for any particular class, then that section will be offered as what's called the CFSD Connect. So there are some classes that I predict will be offered as CFSD Connect classes at Orange Grove, and those are the classes for which we just have 1 teacher. So our band, our choir, our orchestra, our Chinese classes, our global perspectives and advanced level Spanish classes that we just have 1 section each. There is no way that I can staff a remote section and an in-person section. So those courses will be delivered through what's called CFSD Connect. The district is purchasing some special cameras that I think swivel and are able to follow teachers around the room, I understand. And students who are remote will attend those CFSD Connect classes at the same time that their in-person peers are attending it. So here at Orange Grove, kids in person will go into their class. Online, the remote learners will connect to that class. They'll be watching via webcam. and the teacher will be able to interact with them probably through a Google Meet. I'm not sure exactly what that will look like in the classroom, but the intent is that the teacher, that those kids won't just be watching a TV show of their class. The teacher will be able to interact with them, and they'll be able to interact with each other in the class as well, we hope. So any student that chooses remote may have a mix of CFSD Online and CFSD Connect classes. Each class will be determined individually based on what we are able to staff. I anticipate most remote classes will be CFSD Online, and a few of them will be CFSD Connect, the ones that we have only one teacher for. Our gifted program is another case like that, where we have one gifted teacher. We can't split him in two. So that's what the remote learning will look like. All assignments will be turned in on Google Classroom. All of our teachers are going to be setting up Google Classroom at the beginning of the year, so every single teacher will have one ready to go. In case we do need to go fully remote, we'll be ready for that. And that's what remote learning looks like. And then I think I'll wait until the end maybe to take individual questions about that. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is what school will look like here in person. So if you choose in-person learning for your child, students will come to campus. Students who have open enrollment families like ours will not have access to the buses this year. So buses are going to be reserved just for in-district families only to reduce the amount of physical contact that kids have with one another on the buses. When kids arrive on campus at Orange Grove, and on the bus, we're going to expect that they're wearing masks, that they have face coverings that you will provide. When they come on campus in the morning, they're going to walk to their first period class. So if they get here at 7:05 and school starts at 7:30, they'll head into their first period class. They can read or they can study. They'll sit in their desk. They'll be as socially distanced as we can make them in a class of maybe 30 kids. And they'll wait for the school to start. Except for our kids who are purchasing a breakfast, all of our eating is going to happen outdoors. So in the morning, a student could pick up breakfast. They would then eat in the courtyard. We have designated seating spots that are socially distant so that kids can eat and be socially distant, because you can't eat with a mask. So then the bell will ring. Student will have their first period class. The classrooms are going to be set up with desks in a grid, all facing forward, all spaced apart. The goal in our district is that students will be 3 feet apart from one another. We do not have the resources or the room capacity to have students 6 feet apart. And desks will all be facing forward. However, I'm really going to encourage and work with in-person teachers to build in interaction among students here. So even though they're apart from each other physically, I want them discussing in pairs and working in quads. So they'll be at some point probably turning toward each other, but still all wearing masks. We're going to ask that kids bring their own water bottle. All of our drinking fountains are shut off except for bottle fillers. And it's going to be hot in August, and we want kids to be hydrated and healthy. We're going to have paper cups on hand in case kids don't bring water bottles, but we're also going to then call families and say, please make sure your child shows up with a water bottle. So that's going to be an essential piece of school equipment from now on. So kids will go through the lesson, and the teacher's in person. The teacher will be masked as well. We are providing face shields for optional use of all of my staff. I'm recommending to all of my staff, and I recommend to you with your kids, that the eyes, nose, mouth, this is where COVID gets in, so we recommend coverage of that. That's why I've been wearing my glasses for the last 4 months and not my contacts. And glasses make you 10% smarter, so it's all good. But our teachers will have access to face shields. I'm encouraging them to wear glasses. Likewise with your kids, I encourage you to have them wear glasses if they wear them. For my own kids, we bought them some just clear non-prescription glasses that they can wear whenever they're out, and they have eye protection too. At the end of every period, we're gonna, first of all, we're elongating our passing periods. So we had famous 4-minute passing periods for our kids to get from one end of the campus to the other, and they all were able to do it. We are extending that to 6 minutes because we want to eliminate the crush that can happen of students trying to get out of the classroom and bumping up against each other. We want teachers to be able to let their students out in a measured way, and for our students not to be panicked that they're going to be late to a class, because then that would lead to running and tripping, and we want them to be safe in all ways. So we're extending our passing period to 6 minutes. 5 minutes before the passing period, we're going to ring a bell. That's for disinfecting, just to alert and prompt teachers and students that that's the time to disinfect that classroom. So if kids have been using laptops, we'll get those disinfected with alcohol. We have some disinfectants that we can use that are pretty heavy duty. Only folks wearing gloves will use those, but we'll get desks disinfected, computers disinfected, kids will pack up their stuff. And my expectation is that, you know, learning and discussion will be happening there too once we get those disinfecting routines in place, that kids are also still talking about content. But for the first several weeks, we're really just going to focus on getting those routines really clean and really wrapped up so that we can know that our kids that are coming in will be safe as possible. So then they'll go. Lunches will be different this year. So we have already adjusted our schedule. We're going to have 3 lunches. For those of you that are new to Orange Grove, we used to only have 2. Each grade level will have lunch together, and all students will eat outside. So we've walked the campus, we've found shady spots. Not all of them have seats. So there are many spots. Kids, actually, if you ever come to Orange Grove during lunches, you'll see many kids like to sit on the ground anyway, under the eaves. So we've found spots. We're going to put decals out that are 6 feet apart. Kids can eat in the shade. If there's a student that has a medical condition who needs to be indoors, of course, we're going to make that accommodation. But the reason we're having kids eat outside is because they need to have their masks off. And we know that being outside really reduces the risk of transmission of COVID. So we are hoping that even with masks off, social distancing, and being outside with air movement is going to reduce the risk for our kids of transmitting any possible virus. The superintendent has said that once kids finish eating, they can congregate and socialize in small groups. So we're still going to open the field. We're going to have kids up there and playing socially distant games, and we'll be monitoring that. And that will be lunch. Oh, lunch will be a grab and go. So we're not having lunch trays. SFE, our food provider, is going to provide several options each day. They're restricting their options so that they can create these. And then kids will walk through. Every kid will need to have an ID, which is already a requirement, but many kids forget them. We're going to be much more strict about that, especially for lunch, because we don't want to slow the line down and keep students indoors. They're going to walk through the cafeteria, spaced 6 feet apart. They'll pick up their lunch and then they'll exit the cafeteria immediately. They're not going to stay in the commons and eat, because we want to reduce exposure to those, our food service workers, and to the students that are in there waiting for food. That's why IDs are super important, because if students have to enter their student ID number, that's a touch point, and it slows down our line. What else? Lunches. Masks. All students will be required to wear masks, and all adults will be required to wear masks on campus all the time. When I have 2 adults in a room or in a space, they need to wear masks. The only time that wouldn't be happening is like you see right now. I've been wearing a mask all day. Right now I'm in my office with the door shut. There's no one else here, so I'm taking my mask off, and that's what I'm going to allow for teachers as well. Seating I talked about. Ventilation is changing across the district. We can't keep doors open. They have changed because many of our rooms share an AC unit. So that means recirculated air goes from multiple rooms in many cases. The district is adjusting the mix of outdoor air. So they're bringing in more fresh air and reducing the proportion of recirculated air. This will mean probably that it's a little less responsive. So our kids and teachers may get a little bit hot sometimes before it's able to cool down. In the winter, they may be a little bit cold before it heats up. Those temperature changes will just take a little bit longer, but we'll still have temperature control. All right, so that's what the two days look like, and those are some of the health precautions we're taking. We also will have a part-time health aide on our campus next year. Actually unrelated to COVID, but we're glad to have her with us. So we'll have a little more a little more capacity in terms of our health office, because it's middle school and we expect that kids are going to bonk into each other and trip and fall or play on the field and twist an ankle. We know those kinds of things happen. So we want our nursing capacity to be good. We're going to have an isolation room. So when students show up with symptoms, this is going to be something we will ask of all families, is that if your student has any of the symptoms that are listed by the CDC for COVID, that you keep your student home. And when students show up with symptoms, we're going to move them to the isolation room. The nurse is going to triage, and most likely we will send those students home. I think that is my list. That was my list of the most frequently asked questions. So let me just double check one more time that I'm not missing. Lunch, ventilation. Oh, questions about what happens if someone tests positive for COVID. So this I'm going to give you the least satisfactory answer about, and that is that the guidelines are still being developed in our district. But we definitely will have guidelines, and in every case we are going to connect with the Pima County Health Department and follow their guidance. So there are different metrics that different organizations are using. We are going to try to follow the recommendations of medical professionals about how to respond if a student has COVID, or if a student is exposed to COVID at home, for example. So we really are going to rely on families to report things like that, to make sure that people with symptoms are getting tested, and that we have good information so that we can keep our community safe as well. All right. That's a lot of information. And so I'll take questions. I'm going to read through. There are some of the comments. Jenna, the governor said no in person until certain metrics are met. He also stipulated that all schools must provide on-site in-person learning from day one. So our district is going to provide that learning by having teachers in classrooms and kids in classrooms. That's my current understanding. We may receive different word from our district. I know that other districts are handling those two different directives a little bit differently. Could the district hire more teachers and/or assistants to support these two modes? Yes, that is a possibility. I think once we have a better sense of our staffing needs, once we see numbers for remote and in-person, we'll be able to request those things from the district. Mr. Tasa, is there a plan to limit the amount of students that can attend the school, or is the school prepared to have all students back at the same time? There is no attempt to limit the number of students in the school, and this actually makes me realize I didn't talk about class size. This is another question I've gotten multiple times, which is how will having some of our students go remote affect class size? And my answer, which is unsatisfactory, is I don't know. It may decrease it, it may increase it. Because we can't split a teacher in half, and we have to remove whole staff members at a time from the in-person learning to go to the remote learning. Unless we have perfect numbers, then one of those two sessions is going to have class sizes that are higher than normal. So that may be our in-person class sizes, or it may be the remote class sizes. So I don't know. Right now, our district's plan doesn't have a reduction in class sizes in the in-person setting. Can students take their own laptops? Yes, and we are going to encourage that, just because of, it frees more resources, but primarily it's a safety question. So, if your student is able to take their laptop from class to class throughout the day, we believe that will be safer for that student than handling potentially 3 or 4 laptops that have been used and disinfected, but it just reduces the number of touch points that a student has. What will IEP services look like for remote learners? So we are going to make sure that students are provided the services in their IEPs. There were some adjustments, if you remember, during the remote learning session to the way service hours were provided, but our district is working to make sure that that can happen. We still have EAs that work with students with IEPs. Some of them will work remotely, some of them will work in person. And it's really going to depend on each individual student and their particular needs. Let's see, Betsy, focus group, federal guideline of 28 days of straight decline in order to return to brick and mortar. Okay, so Betsy, I was referring to the CDC guidelines. The CDC has a list of 5 guidelines. I believe there are 6, but one is an either or. That is one of those guidelines that they have put out. That's part of the plan that's posted by the White House. I'm going to bungle the name of it because there are all these plans running around, but the America reopening plan. How is this coming into play given our current rates of infection in Arizona? As far as I know, Arizona does not currently meet any of the criteria in that metric. I know that Pima County doesn't meet any of the 9 criteria listed by the Pima County Health Department either. I believe in Ducey's update, he said that schools would be given direction about the metrics we could use on August 7th, 10 days before school is supposed to start. And I don't know, I don't know. I don't know that that would have any difference currently for our district based on the requirement of free on-site learning for all students that want it starting day 1 of school. Mr. Otasi, can we donate chairs or tables for kids to have lunch or tents? Yes. Yes, let me think about that. But I'm gonna write that idea down because that might be something that would be good. Mr. Dahman, please forgive me if I mispronounce your name. Names matter, but I can't confirm with you. Can some classes be held outdoors? Some schools have installed shade structures and misters to make as much outdoor learning as possible. To me, it's unrealistic that in August we will be able to have classes fully outdoors. And we are purchasing a few shade structures, but I don't know how realistic and healthy it is to have a staff member outdoors all day. Our PE teachers will go outdoors when it's okay to do that, but they usually don't structure their day so that their full day is spent outdoors. They have some indoor and some outdoor. And it's unlikely that we would have enough shade structures and misters to have a significant portion of students outside. That just doesn't seem feasible. How will kids get their IDs this year? We did not collect IDs at the end of the year, so if your student still has their ID, they will use that. Students that are new to the school will get their IDs a couple of weeks into the school year. So we usually start with pictures. We are not going to have in-person pictures this year as part of our pick up and unpack. But what we'll do is ask new families to the school to send us a picture of your child that could work as an ID picture, a portrait. And then the district produces the IDs. We hand those out to students on campus. Usually it's the first, maybe the second week of school. And we make provisions for them to make sure they can get lunch, they can get on the bus without their IDs. Mr. Paris, why not have teachers change classes so there's less chance of the kids not being socially distanced? Yes, the idea of cohorting, and this is happening in some countries. I believe Denmark and Norway may be doing cohorting. It's for us with the middle school schedule, that's not possible because so many of our kids have different classes and because we offer electives and because we have so many classes that have different ability levels. So for example, we offer 7 different levels of math. We offer 7, actually soon it will be 10 different levels of world language. So given those constraints on our schedule, we can't do that, but it's a good idea. Let's see. Ms. Martin, will there be an orientation for 6th graders that start at the quarter or the semester? Actually, there will be an orientation for all of our new students before school starts. I'm going to mess up my dates without looking at a calendar, but it will be the Thursday or Friday before the first full day of school, probably the Friday before the first full day of school. We'll get information out to you really soon about that. It's going to be a fully remote orientation. We started planning like that because we didn't know what would happen with the beginning of the year, but it'll be for all of our students. Two things I didn't talk about that I'm really excited about are our Panther Pals program and our advisor-based program, especially if you're new to the school. And the reason I want to talk about those is because one of the critical issues during this time is social emotional learning and making sure kids are connected to and develop positive relationships with each other and with the school. So our Panther Pals program is a group of 8th graders. We have, I believe, 51 8th graders that volunteered to be Panther Pals this year. That means they'll be mentors to new students. So every single 6th grader will have a Panther Pal. And they're going to meet their Panther Pals during orientation remotely. There'll be 2 Panther Pals for a small cohort of 6th graders. They'll do some getting to know you activities, talk about the things they need to, and answer questions about the first couple of days of school. We're going to have Panther Pals that are remote and Panther Pals who are on campus in person. So during the first few days of school, the Panther Pals wear their shirts around, so any new student knows, hey, if you've got a Dayglow orange shirt, I can ask you a question, and you'll steer me in the right. You won't play a trick on me, although our kids actually never do. But so we got the Panther Pals in place, and they are going to be leading the orientation for new students. Our 7th and 8th graders will be assigned a Panther Pal also. And that might look a little bit different because, especially for an incoming 8th grader, they will relate differently to a peer 8th grader than a 6th grader will. But we want to make sure that every student that comes into our school has that connection with at least one student who can show them the ropes, show them how to use Student View, answer their questions about the school, and connect with them. Our Panther Pals that are in person and remote are going to have lunch with their 6th grade Panther Pals once a week for at least the first month, if not the first quarter. We're going to do it for the first month and see how it goes. So that's one piece we have in place to really build community and strengthen relationships, whether your student is in person or remote. Another program we're very excited that we're expanding is our advisor-based program. We've had a team of really amazing educators working on that this summer. Advisor-based is a program that has really helped designed to build belonging. And this year we're going to have it twice a week for a half an hour on Tuesday and Thursday. Last year was our first year after decades of not having it. And we used a prepackaged curriculum just so that we could get it off the ground. This year, our teachers are developing Orange Grove specific lessons and units to really help kids develop a growth mindset, learn about how to deal and do emotional regulation, do short mindfulness practices, gratitude practices, but most of all, develop those relationships with the other students in their advisor base and that adult. And so they have a place that where they can go and they know they can be themselves. They can talk about important issues. As the year progresses, we're going to use that as a forum to discuss current events and really delve into the issues that are surrounding our school and that affect the lives of our families and our kids. So we're very excited about those two programs. And I think they're really critical right now, especially with remote learning and with in-person learning looking like it will. I think the school will not feel the same no matter where you are this year, and that's just a reality. So orientation will be coming up for all new students. Ms. Peters, is there a potential that there could be a teacher shortage? Are teachers opting to instruct remotely due to safety concerns? What does the substitute guest teacher program look like in CFSD? You are correct to identify that as a real challenge. Right now, depending on where the numbers go, I have more staff who are at higher risk for complications from COVID then I imagine we are going to have remote teaching positions. And that is a reality. And yes, some staff will leave if they are not able to teach remotely. And I think that's going to be a real concern. Substitute guest teacher program. We at Orange Grove, we have been we've been really successful in general with having substitutes. Substitutes like to come to Orange Grove because our kids are awesome. and they get good plans from our teachers. And so we've been very lucky in the last several years, even when there have been sub shortages. It's incredibly rare that we have to pull people in to go in and sub for other teachers. So I am hoping that that will continue. We've spoken to several subs who plan to come back. And I don't want to downplay the real challenge, because many of our substitute teachers are older and have underlying health conditions. And I cannot predict for all of them what choice they're going to make and what they feel safe with. So I wish I had a better answer for you, and I think we will know next week. We'll have a better picture of what the shape of that challenge looks like. Incoming 6th graders still have an 8th grade buddy. Yes, Panther Pal. PE activities. We are curious about PE activities. We plan to make them as safe as possible. So really looking into physical activities that engage kids physically but that don't require contact. So things like badminton, where you could conceivably stay 6 feet apart from other people and play a vigorous game and wear a mask. So we are going to be looking to national bodies of PE educators for creative ideas, and we have a really creative staff. I'm really confident that kids will still have a good PE experience. School picks, positive COVID. I think I've answered those as best I can. Why can't every class be CFSD Connect? I think the reason for that is because of the limitations of the real ability for kids to remain online and looking at a screen for 7 straight hours a day, 5 days a week. One of the conditions when we went, and this is to Jenna's question, why we went to the remote learning structures that we did, we were given limits about the amount of time we could reasonably expect a child to be online and participate in remote learning. And if a student was participating remotely in all 7 classes, that does not seem tenable. Can remote learners still obtain an ID? Yes, absolutely. When will diagnostic assessments be done for incoming 6th graders? Those are usually given in the classes themselves once the school year has started. The one exception is math. So if you have a child and they're placed in a math course, but you believe they have mastered those skills already and would be better suited to be in another math course, on August 3rd at noon at the high school, there will be diagnostic tests. But please alert me or alert Ms. Morgan in the front office, because we like to give the names and the desired testing level to the high school folks that conduct those tests. And then they can be ready with the right test. So August 3rd at noon. Panther Pal plan, I think I answered that, but if you still have questions, let me know. You contact about taking the bus. That, I believe when you register, you indicate the need for a bus route, but if you don't currently, if you're not certain about your status with the bus, contact Amy Sams at the district. Her email is asams@cfsd16.org. Will OG inform parents if there is an outbreak? This will be forthcoming in the plan that we have. I believe it's our responsibility to inform our community if we have a single confirmed case of COVID on campus. And I will follow the protocol that the district agrees upon. If a child, Ms. Janke, if a child does test positive, are they able to join the online learning while in quarantine? Currently, no. So this is a good question. If a child is in the in-person cohort and they become ill, or they have to be outside of the class for quarantine, right now that would look like if they were in-person learning during a normal year. So the teacher would send them materials, they would work at home as they were able and as their health permitted, and then they would come back into the class once that period was done. Now, if the quarantine becomes extended, if we have a child with a serious health issue that we know is going to go on for weeks, then yes, on a case-by-case basis, we would look at moving that child into the remote cohort so that they could still participate in the learning. Gina, what happens to in-person? Yeah, I think I've answered that. Borrow a Chromebook. Chromebooks will be still distributed to students who are participating in remote learning, and we'll put information out about that as we get nearer to the start date. The district organizes that, and then we just work as a distribution center. 6th grade orientation, plans for hybrid method, no. The hybrid method, really the governor's executive order put a stop to many superintendents were planning a hybrid method. Ours was not, but the governor's executive order really prohibits a hybrid method from working because of the provision that schools must allow any child who needs a place to come on campus during school days. So that could mean potentially that you would have the same number of students. Your classrooms would be full of half-size classes, and then where would you put those other students? How are band and choir being run? Those I predict will be CFSD Connect classes. We are still looking at research and consulting with national agencies of choir and band teachers and directors. The students, at least unless I see different research, students will not sing in person at Orange Grove. It seems to be pretty clear that the research is that aerosolizes the virus, despite having a mask, despite having a face shield, and we will provide face shields for kids in choir. But kids will be engaged in learning about choir, and they will sing. They just will not sing on campus. We will be a music or a voiceless, singingless campus for at least as long as we have to be. What have I chosen to do with my kids, and how did you make your decision? Okay, my kids are attending Catalina Foothills remotely. I signed up on the first day. My wife is a doctor, and I trust her judgment. And looking at, right now, Arizona is we are the 3rd highest per capita rate of COVID cases in the nation. About a week ago, we were one of the global hotspots. So our cases are declining, which is very hopeful, but we're declining from a very high peak. And this is nothing about our schools. This is about really the environment that our schools exist in. So we decided that it was better because she and I need to be able to come to work. And I'm 50, so I'm entering that higher risk category. So that's what we chose. What percentage of students online? That remains to be seen. Right now, I think we have about a 1/3 who have signed up to go online. Oh, Barb, anxious to hear we need the 180 days. Barb, I don't know. The governor stipulated that it was 180 days or equivalent hours. CFSD always exceeds the required hours for our kids. So I haven't, this is just me off the cuff. I think we'll probably have enough hours to keep our fall break, but don't write that down. Is hybrid off the table? Ms. Moore, yes. Are you going to ask parents to report symptoms and possible exposure daily? Yes, we are not going to ask parents to report the absence of symptoms, but absolutely, the safety of every person on our campus is going to depend on parents being honest and open about the exposure of their family to COVID or symptoms. I don't know if you're following Israel, which opened up its schools and then had to close them because of outbreaks, but there was a case of a kindergarten teacher who wrote to families requesting that they were honest about sending their kids with COVID, and later she died. So yes, that's critical. We're going to do it. How are you going to ensure the online option is the same quality as in person or vice versa? For example, will tests be the same between in-person and remote? Yeah, this is really a challenge. And what I'll say is the online will not be the same quality as in person. I don't think that any of us believe that realistically our teachers can do the rich and exciting work that we want them to do in a fully remote capacity. So I'll just say right there, it will not be at the same quality as our normal functioning school. The tests are are an interesting problem, and that my teachers are grappling with right now, which is how do you give a test online and assure any sort of test security? How do you assess a student and really know? We have really creative teachers, and I believe in their capacity to interview students or have students perform or do different things. I am confident that our kids will still learn remotely. Will they have to log into multiple teachers in a day? Yes. There will be, I imagine, multiple live sessions every day that kids will have to log into. And those live sessions, at least my current understanding is those still will be recorded so that kids who can't attend or have connectivity problems will be able to look back at them later. Are there plans in case students who don't have COVID but have symptoms? This is for Michelle GT. Will a negative COVID test be required to return to school? Again, I can't comment on that because I'm not sure where our district's plan will land, but we will follow the district's plan about how we respond when folks have COVID or other symptoms. Ms. Jacob, will there be enough electrical plugs available for the kids who bring their own laptops? We will find a way. Yes. Can students bring their own laptop? Yes. And Ms. Gupta, I just want to say, again, we really encourage that. I think that that's a good option if that's something that you can do. Humidifiers. I don't, Mr. Doman, I don't know, but I'll write that down and I'll bring it up to our facilities folks. That is new to me. Ms. Brownlee, what type of laptop would work best if a student brings their own? I think much of what our teachers do is through Google. So, and that is all web-based. So really any laptop would work just fine. At our school, we have a mix of MacBooks and Chromebooks. And our teachers are really comfortable using Chromebooks. If there was a teacher who needed kids to use a MacBook application like iMovie, then students who brought their own laptops would still be given a MacBook to use. So just bringing your own laptop doesn't mean you won't have access to our technology. Every student will have access to the technology. So I'd say it's up to you. Personally, I would buy a Chromebook just because I have 2 teenage boys and they are not always gentle to technology. And Chromebooks are a pretty inexpensive functional option. But every child is different. Would kids still have lockers? No, we are not doing lockers. The lockers are a real congestion point, a real bottleneck for kids to be bumping into each other, a lot of touch points there. So no, students won't have lockers. I'm asking my teachers to really be mindful of what they require kids to bring. You know, we don't want kids having to bring 7 binders everywhere on campus or a textbook for every class around. Many students use rolling backpacks, and that may be a good option for your child too. But yeah, kids will not have access to lockers. PE will, issue laptops. Yes, laptops will be issued through the district. How will PE be structured? I think fairly similarly. We have, the NPR, the early parts of the year are always challenging for PE because of the high temperatures. If there's a heat advisory, they're all going to be inside. But we have enough spaces outdoors, and we have we have a space in the NPR that's quite large and well ventilated. The air circulates in there pretty well. So we'll have our PE teachers conduct PE as much as possible with the same level of activity, but different activities that allow for social distancing. If a student with an IEP is attending school remotely, could their EA work with them in person at their home? I know that is being explored. I don't know how that's going to land, but I know that is a possibility that is being explored. Ms. Conrad, will there be flexibility for online attendance, making room for kids, parents to be home or do work on the weekends? There will, however, the state has issued some guidelines for us in terms of taking attendance for this school year that it did not issue during our last portion of remote learning. So my understanding is we are going to have to account and be able to certify that every student engaged with each class every day if they're remote, much like we do when they're in person. We certify that, hey, the student was in class. I am not sure what that will look like right now. Ms. Anderson, when will we know if all learning will be virtual? Will parents be given any warning? Is it possible we may not be informed until the 16th or 17th? My understanding is in this district, the only way that we would be all virtual is if the governor issues a statewide school closure. And actually, that would be a closure. He could also issue an order saying that statewide the schools had to conduct distance learning. The press conference that he just gave, I believe he reaffirmed his commitment to allow local school bodies to make that decision. What does orientation for incoming sixth graders look like? That will be remote, so that will be small Google Meets like this with probably maybe 10 to 14 incoming new students and 2 Panther Pals and a teacher. So students, sixth graders will meet with their first period teacher and their 2 Panther Pals that are assigned to them, 2 or maybe 3. We have a lot of Panther Pals this year. And then they will answer questions. They'll give them some tips about how to start the year right. They will do some getting to know you activities, and kind of the Panther Pals always conduct an orientation. They'll do it again. It'll just be fully remote this time. And there will be an orientation for both our remote learners and our in-person learners too. So we're including everybody. Maybe the FFO could ask families if they're willing to lend pop-up tents. That's a great idea. I have a feeling there probably are pop-up tents in the community, and that's a good idea. Ms. Fenn, we have, I think, about almost a third have chosen remote learning so far, based on our numbers. School supplies. Oh, okay, Ms. Platt. So we are still going to have our pick up and unpack. We will be sending postcards out hopefully soon. That will be held on, let me check the calendar just to be, since we know the dates, I should just tell you the dates. That will be held on August 12th, Wednesday, August 12th. We are going to hold the pickup and unpack from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. so that families that work can come. We will send out appointment slots so that we can stagger when people are coming into the MPR and reduce the numbers. We're expecting to have 20 people move through in 20 minutes. So we will be able to get 600 different groups through in the day if we do it right. We're really stripping down the pick up and unpack, but that's where you could pick up any purchases that you've made. So Spiritware, EduKits, and other purchases as well, and where you can make purchases that you'd like to for the year. It's really important for us on our end that we get the forms that we will send out for you filled out and in the health forms, and acknowledging that you've read our discipline matrix, those kind of important forms. So that will be happening on that Wednesday, the 12th. It's happening in Tempe K8. Ms. Brown, I don't know enough to comment on that. How's orientation for sixth graders this year? I think I've addressed that. How do sixth graders choose their electives? Oh, Miss Alday or Alday, sixth graders chose last spring. If your child has not chosen, then please call Ann Morgan, and she'll walk you through how to sign up for that. How will we get our teachers list? We are, instead of handing out paper schedules on the day of the pickup and unpack, Wednesday the 12th, we are going to make Student View go live so that you'll just have your schedule on your phone or your computer. I highly recommend, if you don't have it yet, especially incoming elementary parents or former elementary parents, that you get the Student View app, because it's a really simple way to look at all of your child's classes. Virtual counseling for the children, yes. Every single one of our students, no exception, will have access to all of the services that we offer. So school psychologists, school counselors, special education, 504 plans. Yeah, that's our commitment. Next week, will the district share the stats? I don't know if they plan to or not. Ms. Cutshaw, how many times a week will online students be in a live class, and will they have one-on-one access to their teacher at any time? Yes. So my expectation will be that our teachers have at least 2 live sessions with kids, and teachers will also have office hours. We are restructuring the office hours, and we're adding an appointment slot component, because one of the things that we found surveying parents, surveying kids, surveying teachers, is that some students loved the open office hours format, and they would be there, and it was their method of social connection. So we are preserving them in some days. But we also have other students who, that would be the last thing in the world they wanted to do, is to show up to an open session and ask a question. So we are also going to have some office hours which are appointment slots, and kids will just sign up online. They'll show up, there'll be a Google Meet, and they'll be able to talk one-on-one with their teacher whenever they need. Quick access to teachers is really critical. Ms. Anderson, yeah, me too. I'm glad they have a Panther Pal. We love the Panther Pals. Ms. Smith, are students or staff subject to daily wellness checks if they don't have any of the COVID symptoms or no close contacts with positive cases? If they do have close contact symptoms awaiting test results, will they be required to stay home? Answer to the first one, there won't be formal checks. There will not be temperature checks, for example. In our district, we are expecting parents and families to be the front line on that continuum and check temperatures at home and make sure they're not sending kids to school with a temperature, or with a temperature suppressed by Tylenol or Advil or something like that. And then our procedure responding to contacts or COVID positive laboratory confirmed cases on campus, that is going to be, that's still in draft form and will be issued, I think, pretty shortly. K-8 is doing cohorts. Teachers, oh, okay, got it. Rotate, but the kids stay together in one room throughout the day, including lunch. Oh, well, maybe I'll reach out to their principal and figure out how they did that. How is the PPE sanitizing stock? We have a pretty consistent flow, certainly right now. I don't know about how we would handle a national, I don't know enough about the facilities end of things to know how we would handle a national shortage. It seems like the demand for sanitizer is way up, and that distribution centers and factories are meeting it right now. Today's Ms. Peters' executive order said that in-person opening is up to local districts, but also that AH will release public health metrics August 7th. That's right. Will CFSD consider allowing parents to postpone decision to opt into remote until these metrics are released? Not to my knowledge, and also to my knowledge, those metrics will not affect our plan to start in-person learning on August 17th. Can I confirm all teachers will be on campus as of August 17th, teaching live and remote? Yes, with a caveat. The default is that all of our teachers will be on campus, including those teachers teaching remote. However, on a case-by-case basis, there may be teachers that we allow to work from home, depending on their particular situation and health condition. Orientation, I think I answered that. Hybrid, no. Wait, I think I jumped in the questions somehow. Ms. Anderson, do all students participate in their advisor program? Yes. Remote and in-person, yes. Advisor-based will happen for all of our kids. There will be fully remote advisor-based sections and fully in-person advisor-based sections. It will be tied. This year, here's one thing we're having to step down, is that this year advisor-based will not be a mix of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. They're going to be grade level specific, and that was because I wanted to reduce the number of contacts that our kids had with each other and teachers had with each other. So kids are just going to stay with their 3rd period class, and then that will be their advisor base for this year. Adjusted start date for in-person, but check out their site. It's very informative. Conferences. Ms. Benson, I don't know how conferences will happen this year. Let's see. I'm glad Bree will be a Panther Pal. That's awesome. If my child needs to quarantine, will they be able to join school remotely? Not through one of the remote classes. So that will be, they will be treated as if they were sick during a normal school year. If my child is remote, can she still join after school sports? Yes. What about after school sports? Will they be an option? However, I believe after school sports have been canceled for the first quarter because of the league. There will still be after school activities. So our community schools program is still functioning, and my understanding that that is still running. How will advanced classes at the high school be dealt with? Barb, I'm assuming that's you. I can't speak to that. I don't know, and I think that they will not know for sure for each class until the numbers come in. If a child tests positive, Ms. Mokhtarian, if a child tests positive for COVID, how will the homework look if they're out for 14 days or might not be able to do the homework if they're not feeling well? Can they go online to stay caught up? And again, they won't be able to participate in the remote section. But as always, when there's a student who's sick, we make provisions so that they have enough time to make up the work. And very often teachers will just exempt some of the work. So if we have a child who's unwell, we are not going to necessarily have the same expectation if that's an expectation that's unrealistic for that child. Fall sports are canceled. Jenna, kids play video games for hours on end. I think they can be at school online in the day with the 6-minute breaks in between each class. This is correct. However, not all screen time is the same. And I would guess that most kids are less engaged with the difficult work and uncomfortable work sometimes of learning than they are with video games. If you consider being in a Google Meet meeting for 3 hours versus playing a video game for 3 hours. But yeah, kids can spend a lot of time on screens. Will there still be plenty of extracurricular activities offered? Yes, I believe so. Will grades continue 1 to 4 or pass-fail? There's no plan for pass-fail. So grades will still continue as they are. How much live instruction to read to will kids have remotely? I anticipate maybe about half of their classes would have a live session each day. One consideration that we have that came out of sessions with kids and parents would be to find a way so that kids can identify, like, Tuesday, this is when I'm going to be working on these 4 classes, and Wednesday is going to be when I'm working on these 3, rather than trying to manage a really complicated schedule with multiple different due dates and things to show up for. How will absences be handled if a child is ill? I think I've addressed that. Math assessment be scheduled, done remotely? No. So if that is, if that's the case for you, then contact me, and we'll figure out exactly how to place your child. Ms. Peng, will the online live stream classes be recorded? Because sometimes the home internet could be unstable and students could lose connection during the class. This is correct. It would be great if the live classes are recorded so remote learning students can go back and review. I don't know for sure. I believe they are. The one thing that may be slightly different is, if you remember if you were here for our remote learning last year, there were privacy concerns that meant that we could only post recorded videos if we had permission from all of the parents. There may be students in the in-person class that don't give permission, and it's not as easy to just excise them from a video. So I don't know for sure, but I believe the plan is to post those video sessions. Ms. Brownlee, students about PE, will students have to wear PE uniforms for at-school PE classes? No, we are not going to have students change, because we are not going to have students use the PE locker room. Again, that's another area where getting 4 classes of students in, through that tiny bottleneck and undressing, they're really, they're cheek to jowl in there. There's not a lot of room. So that just, we can't think of a safe way to do that. So kids are not going to dress out for PE. We recommend that everyone brings deodorant and applies it liberally many times. Can we request a change in specials? You can request, but we certainly can't guarantee changes at this point. Will social distancing on the bus be possible if the buses end up merging routes? I can't speak about what's possible on the buses. I don't know. Open enrollment students are not going to have bus spots this year, so that reduces the ridership of the buses to some extent. I don't know. Ms. Leone, choir for remote learning, what will that look like? I don't know yet. I think that Ms. Horn is certainly working on ways to engage students. But my belief is she will be teaching an in-person class that will be a CFSD Connect class. Ritu, will every class have some amount of live instruction? Yes, absolutely. Mr. Ruiz, you're welcome. Sports, yeah, sports have been canceled by the league that we participate in for the first quarter. Incoming sixth graders in the remote option to meet their teachers in person at least once in a safe manner. That may be possible. Let me write that down, Ms. Sewell, and think about how to do that. We are also, that reminds me, we're also going to be doing our back to school night remotely. So our teachers will be recording short video segments, and that will allow you to click through and kind of hear the teacher's spiel, and we'll have ways for you to interact with that teacher, sending them questions or comments as well. But that relieves some pressure for those of you that have 2 kids in the school and always had to choose between which class do I go to, or do I send my partner to which class? Is it possible to do the gifted program remotely? Yes. The only course content that will not be offered remotely is the computer curriculum, which is embedded into all of our science classes. And that's because there is a robotics component and there's a coding component that requires devices that we have here on school, and we just cannot replicate that online. So students who are participating remotely in those science classes just won't have that aspect of the science learning. It is about, I'm trying to think of how many days in a year it is. It might be 9 days in a school year that are devoted to that computer curriculum. It's a new curriculum. We're very excited about it. Our STEM technology integrator, Ms. Skinner, will be doing that with all of our kids. Let's see, is it possibly the gifted program remotely? Yes, that will be CFST Connect, I anticipate, but I'm not 100%. Will Algebra 2 be in person or remote? That depends on high school numbers and how they are able to staff their classes. ASU Online does graded DBA discussion-based assessments that are phone conversations with the teacher several times during the course. Yeah, that's, I think, a really creative assessment example. Will live classrooms have HEPA filters? We have filters, and I assume they are HEPA certified, but I will find out. Forward the studies on humidity. Great, thank you. Yeah, anything we can do to make, and I'll open this up too to any of you at any point. If there's something that you think of or you see that we can do that will help make our students and our adults here safer, then please let me know, because that is my primary concern. Advanced math students take their high school classes. Well, I think that we have to wait and see what the high school does with those classes. But in-person learners, currently the plan is that like in the past, they'll take a bus to the high school for that last part of the day. In remote classes, will there be non-screen-based work? Yes. And yes, screen time is intense. Will online kids have access to textbooks if needed? Yes, we'll find a way to do that. For example, novels. So if we have English classes, we will find a way so that you can come and pick up the novel for your child or the textbook for your child. Absolutely. If a student is in class that the teacher is not at school, such as choir or global, what will they do in the extra periods? Oh, okay, I think there's a misconception. The choir teacher will be in person. So when we can't create a remote section, we are keeping the teacher in person, and then we're adding the CFSD Connect option. So for students who come in person, every teacher on their schedule will be here in person in their classrooms. I hope that clears that up. IO 901-3599. Are you requiring remote teachers to come to campus to teach remotely? The default district setting is yes. There are individual cases that they will consider on a case-by-case basis. Ms. Doak, you're welcome. Ms. Fuentes, what will the gifted program look like? Again, I won't know for sure until we have numbers, but all students will be able to take that class, and whether they're remote or in person. Will advanced math classes be offered to both groups? Yes, absolutely. You're welcome, Ms. Anderson, Ms. Casson. Child schedule, Ms. Anderson, that will be on the day of Pick Up and Unpack, August 12th. Do remote students need to buy the EduKits? Boy, that's an interesting question. My hope and expectation is that students will still be needing to write things down and engage with the real physical stuff of learning, especially in the live sessions, right? So you could have a teacher that's helping deliver content or having students process and writing things down. So I don't think it would be wasted to have an EduKit. Will there be a basketball team? I think that remains to be seen. The first quarter sports are done. And yes, students who are participating in school remotely may still participate on campus in community schools activities. How will online students participate in electives and extracurriculars? Some electives, our arts electives, we may be able to offer fully remotely, and then the rest will be CFSD Connect for remote learners. And extracurriculars, I believe those will all be in person on campus as part of our community schools, our district's community schools program. Ms. Ranabaum, after school sports, I think that's going to be on a quarter-by-quarter basis, and it seems like we are following the lead of the league that we participate in. Changing out during PE will not happen. Assessments to determine efficacy of remote learning. Yes, so that's another area of focus especially for our remote learning teachers is one of the challenges with remote learning is formative assessment, but there are a variety of tools you can use. Our district is purchasing a couple of digital tools that I believe will help. One is called Formative and one is called Nearpod that all of our teachers, including our in-person teachers, will have access to and be trained on. So that's in terms of formative assessment, and then summative assessments will be, again, in a variety of ways. So kids may record a video, may have a conversation with a teacher, may, write a paper and submit it, may do a project. We also plan along that line, we plan to survey kids along the way in the remote learning cohort about their learning and about their experience so that we can continue to iterate and improve. We know that it will be better than last year, but we also know it won't be as good as it can be. So we want to be reflective about it and keep improving and improving for as long as we have to be in that option. Ms. Fenn, would it be possible for each teacher to schedule a video conference with their classroom parents to give a thorough review of what the scope of their classroom guidelines and assignment and homework expectations will be and in-person learning? Yes, that will be, it won't be an in-person session, but teachers will record those expectations and then have a way for parents to follow up with questions and concerns. Let's see. Oh, I got bumped up again. I think every time I admit somebody, it takes me back in history. Thank you, Mr. Ortaza. Sick children must have an option to join remote learning if they can. I hear you. there will be study hall available if they attend in person. That's a good question, but I expect the answer is yes. Are all open teacher positions filled? Currently, they are. We have a new half-time position that's not a classroom teacher. That's a new position this year that I'm using results-based funding to fund, who doesn't have any actual students. That position is not filled, but all of our other positions are currently filled. We have some fantastic new hires. Wow, okay, sorry, got jumped back again. Back to the CFSD Connect model. Do those classes look like a teacher, Ms. Peters, this is your question, like a teacher with some students in person and the remote students are joining in via Zoom? This model at the U of A is pretty frustrating and difficult for remote students to engage equitably. The best tech tools are Kubi robots and an iPad to represent each remote student. But that seems like a high price tag. How will you be implementing this model if you know at this time? I don't know the name of the technology that's being purchased. They did use the word robot to describe it, but that is for the camera that's used to follow the teacher who's teaching. And you are correct that I believe those are the challenges about how we help teachers engage remote learners at the same time that they are instructing to in-person students. And until I know what the technology looks like, I don't know that I can predict, but we will find a way. Will you be organizing social events like dances? Not for the foreseeable future, no. Can we streamline the process of finding assignments that haven't been submitted? Yes, and this reminds me of another thing. We're going to have create some training modules for kids, especially around Google Classroom, and things like email management, which is a skill that our students really have been able to ignore until remote learning. But we are also going to be creating little Google Classroom primers for parents, because we recognize that very often you are the one helping your child to troubleshoot. And that is one feature that we discovered toward the end of our session, which is there is a button you can click. It will show you all of the outstanding assignments on one page, which is pretty fantastic. Ms. Catino, if we are on the fence as to whether to send my child back, what would you recommend we do? And if we start online and then switch to the quarter, what will that transition look like? I don't feel comfortable making a recommendation for any individual family. I'm happy to answer specific questions about that will address your concerns, but that's not a position that I feel like I can ethically take. If we start online and switch, what will the transition look like? That's a good question, and that we will be learning that too. For sure, your student will be switching teachers, because except for any CFSD Connect classes that your student would then come into on campus and participate with. That's minimally, we know that because we will have some teachers that are fully remote and some that are fully in person. Beyond that, I don't know. We will work to make schedules work. There will be transition and adjustment. My teacher teams are collaborating and planning so that the remote and in-person instruction is aligned somewhat. If you remember, when we went to remote learning, we had to pare down to essentials, which our teachers still will have to do who are teaching fully remote, but we want to make sure that there is as little disruption for a student leaving one class and jumping into another, so that if you're in social studies, maybe you will have covered the civil rights movement remotely, and you'll come back into the in-person, and they will have just finished the civil rights movement, and then you'll move on with the next piece of learning. And the learning would have looked very different about that civil rights topic, but maybe that would be congruent. Is it possible? Sorry, just excuse me for a second. I need to take a drink. There's a lot of talking. It reminds me of the first day of school when you're a teacher. A lot of talking. Is it possible, Ms. Young, is it possible to have homework for certain subjects to be due on certain days and other subjects on other days, like math and English due? Yes. Yes, that for remote learning, that's something that we've definitely talked about. Until we know what's happening with remote learning, we won't be able to line it up. But yeah. Ms. Smith, thank you for considering predictability and coordination of assignment due dates. This was challenging in the spring. Yes, it was. Absolutely. We're also going to change assignment due times to 8 o'clock, and that was based. We had over the summer, we had a parent focus group, we had a kid focus group, a student focus group, I should say. And we also worked with leadership groups of teachers, and we really came to a lot of decisions about tweaks to make and changes to make that we hope are going to make any remote option more livable. Will they be able to practice their band instrument? Yes. Practice usually happens at home. So maybe I'm not answering the right question about that. Ms. Gupta, can a remote student switch to classroom vice versa if they change mind during year? Yes. So at the middle school level, students can switch at the quarter. So I mean, conceivably, a student could start remote for a quarter, go to in-person for a quarter, and then if things change in the country or the world, go to remote in third quarter. It's hard to imagine that scenario, but theoretically, that's what could happen with all the attendant scheduling challenges. Can the loaner Chromebooks have parental controls put on them before distributing them? My understanding, and my son checked one out to use over the summer. My understanding is that on those, they can only log in with their student account, so there is a lock, and the web is filtered using the same filter parameters that are maybe not the exact same that are here on campus, but the same YouTube filters for sure. So there are some parental or content protections in place. They're not as fully featured as when they are on our campus, that's for sure. Vinny, thank you. You too. Ms. Brownlee, will there be an opportunity for my incoming 6th grader to visit the campus before the first day of school? Yes, and this is something, thank you for bringing this up. I neglected to mention this about our Pick Up and Unpack, but on August 12th, which is the Pick Up and Unpack, we're asking that only 1 adult and 1 child come, unless, of course, you have 2 children here at the school. Although we would then say the child who has been here already should stay at home if possible. But during the Pick Up and Unpack, families will go through the NPR and accomplish what they need to, and then exit the NPR, and you will have a map, and you could do a self-guided tour of the campus. So you could find all of the classes in order that your child will be taking. It's really a good idea to walk from one to the other with your child if they've never been on the Orange Grove campus, so that in those first few days, they'll have a sense of familiarity and know where to go. We find that all of our 6th graders, even if they haven't set foot on campus, really figure things out quickly. But for many students, it's really a solace to know, oh, okay, this is where I'm going, and this is what the door looks like, and you know, this is where I'll go in between. So yes, there will absolutely be an opportunity. You're welcome. Do you suggest if we're new to the district that my 8th grader take this math assessment at the high school? Ms. Landau, if you believe your 8th grader should go into a math other than Math 8. So if you believe your 8th grader really is better placed based on their skills in Algebra 1 or geometry, then yes, I would recommend testing at the high school. And again, contact us so that we make sure to get your child on the list. Oh, I think I got jumped back again. Jeanette, you're welcome. And thank you. Tom. Yes. Yes, I am. I mean, within if we can, you know, finding a way to do it safely, yes. For students in the inclusion program, remote learning is really a challenge. How can my child be tested for gifted learning and advanced math new to the district? Ms. Wilcox, the advanced math email me or Ms. Morgan, A. Morgan, at the school, so we can put your child's name down. The test is at the high school, August 3rd at noon for advanced math. For gifted, we will release our Kogat test dates. We are hoping within the next week. We'd like to get that accomplished before school starts, just to reduce contact. How will remote students engage with science labs? That is a challenge. They will, there are a variety of ways they could do it. If a lab could be made of household materials that are safe, then students will be encouraged to use those. Otherwise, what I expect that would mean is they would be watching a demonstration, maybe with a document camera that a teacher would do. And even though they're not touching it, what we care about is the cognitive engagement. So is the teacher asking questions that's really provoking thought about the phenomenon that the student is seeing? Well, our district just has undergone a science revision, which is super exciting. I cannot wait for our teachers to start working with our kids with these standards. It's really, really fantastic. An EduKit. Ms. Haldai, an EduKit is a pre-packaged box of school supplies that parents usually purchase at the beginning of the summer. I don't know if there's an FFO member here. You forgive my ignorance. I thought we maybe didn't purchase extras this year for parents, but often there are some that don't get picked up. So if that's something you're interested in, let Ms. Morgan know.
Hey, Mark. It's
Gina, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
There are no extra EduKits for purchase this year. So parents can go to a store of their choice, or online or in person. And if you're new, then to middle school, then really just recommends 1 or 2 binders and composition books, a handful of composition books, and plenty of loose leaf paper, together with the more normal things like pencils and a pencil case, etc. If your kiddo's in art, then colored pencils, of course, are important. And depending on what math class they're in, then potentially a calculator or compass and protractor, depending on the math class. So those are the typical items that are in the EduKits. And if you need more details, feel free to email the FFO as well, and we can certainly share the school supply list with you as well. Our email address is orangegroveffo@gmail.com.
Gina, would you put that in the chat, and also maybe put the FFO website, or is that?
Yep.
And
no
that
problem.
would be great.
I'll do that now.
There also is a list of, I believe we updated that on our website, a list of school supplies, but I'll make sure that it's available. Thanks, Gina. All right, I think how will gifted testing? Will it be allowable for students due to take the Kogat to skip this and still get into IDS based on their prior teacher's recommendations? So Jen, the recommendations for our gifted program are based on 10 different criteria. The Kogat accounts for 2 of those. So yes, a student still could get in even without participating in the Kogat. We are going to offer the Kogat in person. We've been told that we cannot offer it remotely. So if that's something that you are not comfortable with your child attending, they still can apply for and they can be admitted into the gifted program. Ms. Anderson, you're welcome. Will assignments be more streamlined? Yes, they will. Assignments with due dates and whether submitted or missing in one place. Yes, and that, Ms. Smith, is possible, which is pretty great. I don't know that I think it does say due dates. I have to double check, but yeah, it's nice. How will remote students engage? Wait, am I back? Science labs, I answered. Assign time slots for pickup and unpack. Ms. Jacob, yes. You will, parents will and families will choose a slot. We will use a Google Calendar scheduling tool that will have many, many slots open, and each family will sign up for one. How and when will Panther Pals be notified about their assignments, and will there be preliminary prep meetings? Yes. The first, I believe, one of the trainings I know is August 3rd, and your student should be receiving communication from Ms. Christensen. Have them check their school email, because I believe that's her default setting for alerting Panther Pals, and I know that not all students check their school email regularly over the summer. But let me write down that we'll have her alert parents too. She probably doesn't have parent emails. Will students be socially distanced and wearing masks during the 8-3 assessment testing? Yes, at the high school, I believe they have set aside 4 separate rooms, and that students will be socially distanced and wearing masks. All students will be wearing masks on CFSD campuses across the district indefinitely. Student council participation, yes. Oh, I haven't considered that one yet. Absolutely, we care about student leadership. How that will look with our mixture of online and in person remains to be seen, but we have a great sponsor and I know she'll accomplish it. You're welcome. Oh, I also realized there were many parents that had trouble getting to the registration for remote. At the end of this meeting, I'm happy to walk you through the district website if that's needed, so you can stick around. How do we know if an incoming 6th grader needs to take or retake the Kogat? Ms. Doran or Duran, would you just email me and let me know the name of your child, and I'll check with Mr. Binchadler. Renting orchestra and band instruments. I don't know the answer to that. I will have to look that up, Ms. Platt. They're good. FO. 6th graders still use the email from elementary, yes. And a nice change this year, the district is, first of all, removing those 2 letters that distinguish schools. So there won't be an at mz.cfsd16.org or an OG. So that'll be gone. And I also believe that student emails will now have their first name as part of the email address, which will really help our teachers, because that's what shows up in the Google Meets. So that will be really useful. What will band look like? Will there be in-class practice for band? We are still looking into that. The most recent research that I saw in Science suggests that there's pretty significant aerosolization of playing through instruments. So we really need to assess the health risks and figure out how to do it, especially for brass and woodwind instruments. Things will look different for percussion and for orchestra, of course. I'm glad this has been helpful. If an online learner will have 2 sessions of live classes per week, can you span over the other 3 days of the week? Yes, so the other 3 days, I believe I haven't reviewed or seen the district-wide stipulations. I believe there's also a stipulation for a recorded session. And then students will also, during those other 3 days, be engaged in doing the work. So they could be meeting with their teacher during office hours. They could be working with a group on a project. So doing a Google Meet and kind of any number of things. So engaging in the practice, working on a project, doing those things. Thank you. If you shave your head again at school, will you please broadcast it online? I think it's still up online. I've had to commit to my wife that I will never do that again. So that was a once in a lifetime occurrence. I think it's immortal somewhere. And if your child wants to see it and laugh at me, then they're really welcome to. Something wrong in the web link for the FFO. FFO. Oh, it's orangegroveffo.org, I think is the FFO website. Yeah, so let's see. Gina, can you type that in?
Yeah, I did. Sorry,
Okay,
I just was on autopilot. It's a .org.
I know.
Suffix, not a .com.
All the little details. Gina, for those of you that don't know, is our past president, FFO past president, who has been heroic in the last several years. So.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Orange Grove.
And yeah, a great push out. If you are here, it means you're engaged and concerned about your child's education. You are exactly the kind of person that we want involved in our FFO and helping our teachers and volunteering and being part of our school. So welcome, and go to that website, sign up for the newsletter, volunteer. Let's see. And yes, Ashley, yes, my understanding is yes about Ann Morgan staying, the immortal Ann Morgan. Oh, Leslie, thank you about band rentals. So if you didn't see it, and I don't know if any of you are watching the chat, but it's a good idea to watch the chat because occasionally parents like Leslie will contribute really valuable information that I'm not aware of, like that the instrumental music store is open for appointments for rentals. Do all students need to take a math assessment to determine this year's placement? No, Mr. Vamos. All students that have been in CFSD have been placed at the end of last year by their math teachers because they know that students' capacity and strengths and weaknesses and where they will be challenged and succeed. So they've all been placed. All of our incoming students are automatically assigned the grade level, their target grade level. So if you have an incoming 7th grader, then that 7th grader will walk right into a Math 7 class. The testing on August 3rd is just for families who believe their child needs to be in a higher placement than they were assigned at the end of last year, or higher than their target grade level if you're coming in from outside of our district. Can you please reveal what happens to a class? I wish that I could. I can't yet because that document is still in draft form. Does the whole class quarantine? I don't know. I know that that is how other schools have done it in other nations that have opened up schools. Robotics and computer programming. Our son enjoyed computer programming last year in elementary. Will there be something like that for remote learners? No, this is the one piece of our whole spectrum program that will not be included for remote learners, which is that computer programming course. So that they'll have to jump on board when they come back to Orange Grove in person. All right, we're down to 103 people. And I'm out of questions, which is kind of amazing. So you are the hardcore few. I salute you. I hope I have been able to answer some of your questions. Let me know if you have any others. Have a great night. We miss your kids. Can't wait to see them if you're new to Orange Grove. This is a fantastic place, and we welcome you. And I guess what I'll say is feel free to go ahead and sign out. What I will do now is just walk through the district website about how to sign up for remote learning in case that was confusing. The district added an extra step which adds a layer of confusion, but it's for security reasons. They wanted only parents that have actually registered at CFSC to be able to select that remote option. So that's why you'll be routed through your parent view and then back to the district website for a Google link. I'm just scanning for any further questions. And then, the question that you think of 15 minutes from now, or, this morning at 3 in the morning, or this weekend, just email me. Okay. All right. So I am now going to present the district web page. Hello, I don't know if you can see or hear me. When I opened the district webpage, it kicked me off of Google Meet entirely. So I'm going to try a different strategy and open the webpage in a new window and see if that doesn't shut down Chrome. So hang on 1 second. Okay. Okay, so thumbs up if you can now see the district website. All right, good. I'm seeing at least one thumb, so we're good. There we go. Loading. So here it is. This is, again, the landing page you get to from that link on the first page. Let's see. I'm trying to remember now when I did this, where I go. I'm going to go to remote learning. It's loading. There we go. And then reserve. There's a green reserve remote learning here button. You'll be alerted that you're leaving the district website. This is fine. This is good. It's taking you to your parent view or to parent view. You just need to accept that. It's because this is because of web accessibility guidelines. Then you log in. Oh, huh. Let's see. It's interesting. I'm gonna skip this for a second. Okay, and then under school information, wait, no, sorry. So it was a while since I did this. I thought I would remember it exactly. Under student info for your child, you scroll down and there's a link at the very bottom, CFSD Remote Learning Reservation. And if you click on that link, it will take you back to the district website, and then you will select Orange Grove. And then that will open up. You'll have to accept this. You'll have to leave the district's website again, and then there's the website that you fill out. And if you, if this is an option that you select for your family, and you are having trouble and you can't get in, then send me an email, and I will. I'll try to respond this weekend and make sure that your preference is indicated, or help you walk through until you get it. Okay, let me check the chat and see if there are any more questions. All right, then with that, I'm going to sign off and say goodbye and wish you all a great night on this beautiful day, and thanks for being part of the Orange Grove community.